Hey, good day, everybody. Welcome back to our Zoom with Rabbi Shlomo Schwartz to our realistic map of meaning. He's reading some wonderful literature on the order of blessings, and it's very, very interesting material. So let's just jump right in and see how the rabbi's doing. Shalom, Rabbi Schwartz. So good to be with you. I'm going to turn the class over to you.
Thank you, Dan. Good to be with you. We're on the lookout here for late covers. We are in the middle of Siman 3 of Shulchan Baruch, which is a book I'm writing on the Shulchan Aruch. Can you hear me? Okay. And I've explained that it's we're ordering our blessings on the behavior that we're advised to follow. What's the advantage? What's the blessing in there for us? And I'm analyzing that. And we're in the middle of appreciating a sort of two approaches to witchcraft, to magic, that we have to deal with because our great sages, there was a dispute amongst them as to whether the magic you hear about in ancient times was ever real. Rambam, who's the sage that I am most enamored with, Maimonides, he writes that it was always a trick. It was never really real. It was just hocus pocus, mirrors, and all that. Whereas Rashi, who's another great sage, along with Ramban, Nachmanides is also a great sage, and Chinuch, three people I use a lot. They said no, it was real. There was real stuff there. So, and then it turns out I found in the Torah, I seem to find this difference of opinion mirrored in the Torah itself, because the Torah talks about magic, witchcraft in terms of behavior modification, how to behave in two different places in the Torah. And one place it seems to indicate that it's not real, and then another place it says no, it's for the non-nations of the world. People use it, but God gave the Jewish people something better in the way of real prophets, and so we are obliged not to use that. But there is something there. So so we discussed this last time, and I bring down this comment from Rabbi Shlomo Wolbe, who is modern day sage. He asked the following question: how could it? We read this last time. I'm going over it because it's little deep. It's requires reviewing. How could it have been possible? Because we have a famous statement that at the crossing of the Red Sea, even a Macer, even the lowest of the low, least educated people, least holy people, you would think, saw a vision of God that was more refined than that seen by the prophet Ezekiel in the famous prophecy of the chariots with the four faces, and so on, very sublime imagery. So he asked the question, how could it have been possible for the maidservant to see more than Ezekiel? The prophet Ezekiel's vision was one of the most sublime ever. He saw the throne of glory. Moreover, his lifelong experience with Torah and mitzvahs must have given him a tremendously sophisticated appreciation of whatever he saw. How could a recently freed slave of little education, how much education could she have, and shallow background, how could she have seen a greater prophetic vision? So following is my understanding of Rabbi Wolbe's answer to the question. It's not his words. I'm apologizing up front in case I'm parting from what he said, but this is the way I understand it. At the parting of the sea, all the Jews sang, "This is my God, and I will beautify him." The Hebrew word anvehu, beautify him, can be split apart, and the rabbis say to do this, to form the phrase ani vehu. This is the Hebrew word anvehu, which means I will beautify him, and you can split it apart into 2-3 words, ani vehu, which means I and he. meaning I can make myself like God. I can emulate him. And that's in the Tractate of Shabbos, 133a. The Talmud is explaining so to me, the Talmud is explaining that the revelation of Hashem that came at the parting of the sea changed the maidservant's life. She says, I can be like that. It taught her she could be godlike. In contrast to her, the prophet Ezekiel was already godlike due to his sophistication in the ways of Hashem. True, his vision of the throne of glory made him even more sophisticated than he was before. It was an advantage to have that vision. It was a step up. But that was just more of the same. It was a step up. He'd already stepped up before. In contrast, the maidservant's vision was a life changer. It inspired her to become much more than she was before. She could be like God. Although less sophisticated, her vision was more profound because it was more life-changing. And I think that's what the Talmud means, is that she saw more, she had bigger transformation. The different visions of Ezekiel and the maidservant remind us Hashem is too different, too infinite, too kadosh, holy, to be perceived in any one way. As each of us strives to understand Hashem, there'll be many gaps in our understanding. Each such gap, because they always come, each such gap can become a question. And a question can become a doubt if you don't have an answer right away, or it takes too long to get the answer. And then a doubt becomes a demon gnawing at us, tearing away at our convictions. Because when you have a question and it bothers you, and you don't see, it seems like it becomes impossible to get an answer. Then you start to doubt what you took for granted before, and that's a demon. And it just so happens that just tonight I was talking to a very learned fellow. He was telling over a famous story about one of the great rabbis, Vilna Gaon, I think, or one of the greats, and he was very happy one day. He was like just beside himself with joy. And one of the students was there, and he said, "Hey, why are you so happy then?" He said, "Oh, I had this question that was bothering me for months and months, and I just finally today I got the answer. I figured out the answer." So he said, "Oh, really? I'd like to hear. What was the question?" So he told him over the question, and the student right away tells him an answer. He says, "Well, I got the answer right away. As soon as you told me the question, I could think of an answer. Well, why did it take you so many months to answer it?" And the sage answered. He says, "Well, you don't understand how things work." He says, "A question of this kind it's a question, and when someone finally answers it, it breaks open the fabric of the universe, as it were. It's now available for everybody. That's why you got it right away. But I had to do the work to get it out, to pull it out of the heaven and make it possible to be told in this world. So it was there, but it took a lot of effort to bring it in. Now that it's here, everybody can get it." And he wasn't surprised that he got it right away. So it's that kind of thing that sometimes it's very difficult to get an answer. We're just so blinded by whatever zeitgeist surrounds us until someone pierces the darkness, and then it becomes light for everybody. Somebody turns on light, and everybody can see. Basically, that's what it is. So that may be what Rashi, Ramban, and Chinuch called the koach hatuma, which is the force of impurity. That when people have doubts and they don't see the answer, it's a source of impurity. It's a doubt in people's heads. And in the hands of someone who knows how to manipulate those doubts, such as the magicians of old, that demon, our weakness, the koach hatuma, the impure force, becomes a real force. It's real force now that stops our progress, then in its tracks. We can't go on. We start to doubt everything because we've got this question that we don't know the answer, and it bothers us. And the demon of doubt makes us despair of solving the problem with which we struggle. In response to this koach hatuma, so cleanly understood by Rashi, Ramban, and Chinuch, the Torah presents a remedy. Consult with those who know Hashem well, such as a prophet. That was the other section when the Torah discusses, yes, there is something there. There is a question there. There is a demon. But go to a prophet, go to a sage. They have a closer affinity to the truth. They'll break through for you. And in the absence of a prophet, consult a Torah scholar, because Torah scholarship is the first prerequisite for prophecy. It's on the road. This will deflect the koach hatumah, the source of impurity, and help you find your life changer, your answer. So that's the dichotomy that I described between these two ideas. It's really fantastic because there's another story that I just was talking today. There's as I was telling Dan, I'm dealing with a group of in India, and the leader there asked me this question. He said, in India, there's a Hindu society. There are a lot of idols, and they're very into idol worship and magic and things like that. And so he said he knows of cases where people were ill, very, very seriously ill. They went to the doctor. The doctor could not help or didn't help. And so they went to a witch doctor. And the witch doctor did help. And he wanted to know, can you do that? Because, the Torah says don't. Now, does that apply to non-Jews as well? Can they make avail of this? So we worked it out, but he was testifying to me that yes, it does work. Now, I can't argue with him. I'm not there. I'm not part of this scenario. I don't see the situation, but sitting here in North America, and from my background, I would say, I think a lot of people would say that people that live in that kind of environment with those kinds of assumptions in their life, something happens, they become convinced psychologically that it's a demon that's affecting them, and they have to get rid of the demon. It's not a medical issue; it's a demon issue, and they're just not going to feel right until they go to a witch doctor or something that knows what to say, how to say it, what it does, a particular incantation, whatever, to get rid of it. And for them, it's real. So maybe that's what's going on. But so there's these two sides of the story. At any rate, that's the review of what we did last time. If anybody has any questions or comments, feel free to raise them. To this day, now we're continuing from where we left off. To this day, many sophisticated people are reluctant to dismiss the ancient stories of wizardry and magic as fake news. The legacy of these stories is too strong. Indeed, the Torah itself describes the magicians of Moshe's Egypt as really able to change water into blood. So it says they did. And the witches of King Saul, it says that they were really able to raise the prophet Samuel, from the dead for a consultation, for example. So they do record it as if they were really happening. Now, Rambam, who says this is all nonsense, he would answer that what the Torah means when it records this is it looked like they did it, because he denies that he denies that there's any real magic. But so he would translate dreams or something, messages. So how are these things done? If there were some secret incantations or ingredients that could be taught to anyone, how would that be different from science? Can you imagine what the ancients would have thought of me pouring water into a box, climbing in, and then roaring off at 60 miles per hour? They would have shouted magic. But we know the water, quote unquote, is gasoline. The box, quote unquote, is fitted with wheels and an engine, and anyone with the right ingredients could do the same. Maybe the ancients had secrets akin to ours, and it's all science, not magic. We don't know. If that were so, then why would Hashem ever have forbidden it? He doesn't forbid science. Let the science grow. For this reason, you wanted to say something, Dan? Well, I don't know. I mean, like, to a primitive eyes, we're conducting magic, but we know that this is the way where anybody can do it. You just need the formula. I'm saying, what if there is a formula and that's the way it works? We would call it science. We would say that's not magic, that's science. Everybody knows if you, I mean, it's like striking a match with a sulfur head. You strike this piece of wood and it's going to erupt into a flame. That's magic. No, it's not. You just put a little sulfur with something else there on the tip, and then it'll always do that. We call it science. They called it magic. Like maybe they had the secret beforehand. I don't know. So, but then if that's the case, I'm asking, if it was just science, then why would Hashem ever have forbidden it? He let science grow. So for this reason, those that subscribe to the conviction that ancient magic worked and was not illusory must explain the reason for the prohibitions. It is that these magical acts rely on the sitra achra, which is also known as ruach hatuma, which we recorded, or the impure forces. And the current colloquial term for these forces is the dark side, Star Wars. If dark side works in opposition to Hashem's desires or desire, then that would explain why Hashem prohibits it. Hashem doesn't want these things to be of use, but that would raise a new problem. How can anything work outside Hashem's desire other than us? We can do things that Hashem desires we'd rather not, but everything else doesn't have free will. So how could it work against Hashem's desire? We can oppose Hashem because we have free will, and Hashem wants to reward us for choosing properly. If dark side has free will to work contrary to Hashem's desire, why hold me responsible? Maybe it was dark side's fault. This is the old Flip Wilson. The devil made me do it. If dark side has no free will, then it can't operate against Hashem's desire, and why prohibit it? Maybe I will use it for a good thing, like feeding the hungry. It must be the dark side doesn't work at all. Many things don't work, but aren't forbidden because we quickly abandon them. Dark things keep reappearing for some mysterious reason. That's why they are forbidden. They are inbred foibles. There's no end to their variations, which is why the Torah can only name some as a bellwether for the rest. Stay away. No good will come. Always like, what I'm getting at is like, even today, people know how to entice you into something that's probably not going to work. A new stock, a new diet, a new way to get things done that's not proven. Sounds good. Artificial intelligence sounds good. I tried to use artificial intelligence to write a paragraph, got it all messed up. So everybody's quoting, "Oh, it's going to take over." It's not so fast, not so fast. So there's a lot of things that are not real yet, and maybe they never will be, but they look appealing. And listen, humans, we come up with them all the time. New sales pitches of one kind or another. So that's what I'm saying. At the end, there's no end to the variations, and so you can't forbid them all because you can't name them all. It's us who come up with them, so it's just a general warning to watch out. Make sure you tested it out and it's real, and that's where I'll have to leave it. So we're going on to the fourth paragraph. Shulchan Aruch says, when you're in the washroom, we're back to the washroom here, only reveal yourself a tefach from behind, and in front 2 tefachs. This is, I think they were talking like everybody used to wear a robe, just like a nightgown that it hangs down. So in order to use the washroom, you have to lift the whole thing up. Here's how you reveal yourself. But for a woman, behind 1 tefach, in front, and in front nothing, you can still manage to stay covered. That a tefach is like a handbreadth, like about 4 inches. So the blessing, this instruction is commensurate with the clothing and facilities of the time of writing, which was around the 1500s. A tefach, also spelled with a F instead of PH, is a linear measurement equal to about 3 inches, 4 inches. The blessing of this instruction is a self-image of dignity. That's the blessing we get by behaving modestly in private, just as we do in public, where we want others to respect us. We respect ourselves, and that is a self-image of dignity. So no one else can do that for you. You have to, by conducting yourself in a dignified manner, even in the privacy, no one's looking, you are dignifying yourself, and you'll come to respect yourself at a higher level. Um, and that's what I think is the advantage there. Going on to the next paragraph, 5. If one defecates in an open place without any partitions, he should try to face south with his rear facing north or vice versa, face north and south. However, east to west is forbidden. With regards to urinating, any manner is allowed. This is Beit Yosef, one of the, in the name of Maimonides, and what's going on. Um, People do not remain in open places because they need shelter. We build houses because we need shelter. Therefore, when they are in open places, their focus is on some place in the distance. We tend to think about, shelter, though things we're looking forward to being covered. So the reason for not facing east when defecating is the same reason we do face east when praying, because that direction reminds us of the Holy of Holies in the east of the temple, which is the east of Jerusalem, which is the east for most of the Jewish population of the globe. The statements at the end of the paragraph are in brackets because they do not appear in Reb Karo's original text of the Shulchan Aruch. However, since the rule for urinating appears in Reb Karo's commentary on the Torah Shulchan Aruch, which he named Beit Yosef, they were added by later publishers. That's what I found out. So, P.S. In this instruction, north and south are considered as the same direction, just as is east and west. In other words, this reveals that Jewish scholarship knew early on that the earth was a globe, so that continuously traveling to the east, one would eventually arrive in the west, and so on. So I think that's a fair. This is the 1500s. Now, when was Galileo? When did they change that? Was that around the same time or earlier? Forget. But he's quoting it from the Talmud. This is even earlier. So I think it was well before Galileo, the Jewish scholars understood that the earth was a globe. Just like the sun is a globe and the moon was a globe. So they understood this. And I think there was many others too that understood it. It was just the general conventional wisdom was that it was flat. Okay. So we're into paragraph 6. Shulchan Aruch says, likewise, it is forbidden to sleep from west to east if one's wife is with him. Well, you're gonna engage in a very physical activity of sex, and so you don't want to mingle that consciousness with the awareness of the temple, and so therefore it is proper to take care even when one's wife is not with him. Okay, so the blessing, having established that east is like west and vice versa, the author digresses from toilet behavior to sleeping arrangements, which also involve nakedness and bodily functions. The same reasoning and focus applies. Today, people are more concerned not to place the bed. This is a side for me. More concerned not to place the bed with the head facing the door. They consider it a bad omen because when someone dies, they are taken out head first. Like when you're sleeping, it's like you're dead. So it became customary not to place your bed in a room with the head facing the doorway. Just gives you a bad feeling. That's the way they're going to take you out at the end of the days. I think you can relate to that. Shulchan Aruch says in number 7, one who passes water from Scopus inwards. This refers to a place where the Temple Mount can be seen. It's near Jerusalem, Mount Scopus, and further away cannot be seen. That's Rashi's explanation. Should not sit facing the holy. If you're that close, don't sit facing the holy. Rather, you should face north or south, or should keep the holy to his side. So the blessing, paragraph 5 above, was amended by later publishers, as noted, to discuss urination. Here, Reb Karo introduces the subject himself, but in a strange way. The text assumes that the person passing water is sitting and then gives instruction as to which direction to face. Today, men do not normally sit for urination, but in ancient times, when men wore robes, it might have been more normal. In any event, this instruction clearly identifies the holy sanctuary as the object of concern to the east, which is what I've been assuming all along, although it wasn't mentioned. And number 8, when one defecates in a field, if he's behind a fence, he may defecate immediately. In an open valley, should distance himself to the point where his friend cannot see his disorderly state. And again, I'm going to mention again that even though like we don't find ourselves in these situations very often, and normally I would have skipped it, but I found that the in my comments on all these things, some very interesting things come out about keeping in mind the temple. We direct our prayers towards the temple. We need physical reminders to help us focus and stuff like that, and so that's why I've included it, even though we don't really have these same problems. The blessing in here is this paragraph must be understood in reference to paragraph 5 above, which also spoke of defecating outdoors. Why are there 2 paragraphs on the same subject? The answer lies, I think, in a better translation of the Hebrew word for defecate. The Simon chapter began by describing conduct within a toilet facility. The Hebrew word nifna first appears in paragraph 5 in reference to behavior outside a toilet facility. This is a verb, nifna. The word may explain why a person is outside a toilet facility. The Hebrew word is the passive form of pona, which in its active form means turn or face. The implication is that one was turned. This may be a discrete description of a sudden need to move the bowels. In other words, there's an allusion here, because sometimes you go to the washroom was planned, you have a regular schedule, and sometimes it comes on you. Accordingly, the translation should be when one must defecate. You're just on the wheel, all of a sudden you got to go. And paragraph 5 describes in which direction to focus or not focus in that circumstance, while this paragraph describes what level of modesty to maintain under the same circumstance. So one is which how you do it, and there's the level of modesty. Accepting this context, this paragraph's message is, providing one is covered by a fence, one should allow the bowel movement to take place immediately. Don't bother looking for cover. You're okay, do it, because don't try and hold it in. That's not safe. This is a very a standard message of the rabbis. Let nature take its course. Just try and do it in a dignified manner. Continuing on to the next statement, the text instructs that even though the need has arisen, since there is no cover, one should remove oneself from being visible to a colleague or friend in a disorderly state. Don't, again, have yourself appear as dignified as possible when possible. Here again, a different translation might provide a stronger message, as follows. The Hebrew parua, the word for disorderly, is from the same root as the title Pharaoh, who shamed the Jewish people into slavery by first convincing them to pay a tax, which then incrementally was turned into slavery. That's what he did. He shamed us, says, your visitors here, you gotta help out. So yeah, sure, okay. And slowly he enslaved them. The same root word is used elsewhere, right after the infamous golden calf sin, to describe how the shameful state of the Jewish people was laid bare. By reverting to the original meaning of bearing one's shame instead of disorderly, an interesting insight might lie within these words, especially in conjunction with the word chaver, meaning colleague or friend. The warning not to bear oneself in front of a colleague or friend implies that doing the same in front of a stranger might be okay. Why might a stranger be okay? Well, perhaps defecating within sight of a stranger would be less of a problem because strangers, by definition, people with whom we don't regularly interact. Whatever shameful impression we make on them will not be fed back to us because we won't be around to hear it. But when we shame ourselves in front of friends, an entirely different result is likely. Their friendly dismissal of our faults is, oh yeah, it's okay, which is what we expect from our friends, gives our faults a stamp of approval and encourages us to reveal even more faults, including those that are avoidable. Once revealed and accepted, we lose the incentive to correct them. I think this is a very powerful insight that I'll try, I think I'll come back to it to reveal next time. Better to use friendship as an incentive to make ourselves appear ever more dignified. By inventing higher expectations for ourselves, we encourage ourselves to live up to them. With this understanding, our paragraph has benefited us greatly by moving us away from the conventional practice of preening ourselves to look best in front of strangers. They will never substantially influence our character because we'll soon be absent. Better to put on our best face with our friends as practice towards making that best face permanent, because we'll always be with our friends. So if you're always putting on your best face with your friends instead of laying your hair down, you got a better chance of permanently.
Yeah, it becomes habit, doesn't it? Yeah, good habits actually. Yeah.
ZD right there, and but we'll go back. I'll try to remember to go back over that. I'd like to make that a little more visible. Okay, that's the message for today.
I really enjoyed the Anvehu explanation, and even how everything came around to that force of impurity. Really did a lot of explanation there. So wonderful. Thank you, Rabbi. So
Okay.
we're on for tomorrow night, Rabbi?
We are on for tomorrow night, same time, same station.
It's 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific.
The new link for August.
Yes, we got a new link for August. So if you
How
have...
come you need a new link every month?
Well, because when with Zoom, if I make it a recurring meeting and I set it up, what it does is it sets it up for 7 days automatically, and I actually have to plug in a calendar. Well, if I set it up longer, right, it just runs them in sequence. And with all the other broadcasts and things I got going on, I end up with just a nonstop running thing I got to scroll through. It will show me what's I got on my to-do today, but
I forget that you're doing so many things that you need to.
Well, I do. I've been down a little bit, but it's just
working.
working.
I'm not complaining. I just was curious. Okay. All right. Very good. I think there was hopefully a instructive session. There's a lot of and I tell you, I'm surprised at how many insights you can get out of something that really it's totally, it's old fashioned, the original subject matter. But once you start to think about it, there's such
well, habits are habits, right? And when you think about it, what is dignity and having self decency, and I think it's always.
So our we weren't joined by that. I didn't notice anybody trying to come in. Did you?
No, I didn't. I was expecting Robbie, but he obviously didn't make it. But maybe we'll see him tomorrow. I hope all's well with him. Okay. And Ronald as well. He's been in with a group I've got going with Rabbi Moshe Shulman as well. So, yeah. So Rabbi Schwartz, so good to be with you. We will be back tomorrow with more Zoom with Rabbi Shlomo Schwartz. And if you want to join in the Zoom meeting, you can email Rabbi Schwartz at his email, sbs447@gmail.com. That's sbs447@gmail.com. And he'd be glad to give you the Zoom link. And
or be glad. Questions. If you have questions, you can ask them that way too.
Yeah, if you got questions, he'll be glad to answer them. And I do open the Zoom meeting about half hour early, so there's always chit chat. If you want to join and need to chit chat, it's just good times. So until tomorrow night, have a wonderful, wonderful evening, everybody. Bye for now.
Night.